hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Sorcery Shenanigans, episode 18. Um, we're online due to the scheduling that is scheduling. So the four of us have arranged to meet up and do this month's session online. Hopefully, we get to do next month's session in person because, who knows what's coming down the pipeline. But yes, as always, I am your Dungeon Master, Wayne, and these are your players over on this side of the screen. Um,
Plans are in place for us to live in a hard days night style house together. Yes. I mean, I was told that's what ultimately this is going towards. Yes.
we've
Yeah,
already
go on.
we already did that, didn't we, Kim?
Oh,
Kind of.
it's help. It's not hard days night. Can you kill me and then kick me off the stream?
I thought we were buying the bit of land next door to you guys. We could all build a house down there.
Oh, yeah. There's no facilities though.
Big gaming house, just a dirty big TTRPG house. Just board games every week. Everyone just gets sick of each other after the first weekend because nobody follows the rules. Yes, so these are your players. I'm your Dungeon Master. This is Sorcery Shenanigans, episode 18. We're going to jump straight into our episode in a second, but our returning sponsors, Dublin City Comics, have another great giveaway prize for us for this month. So thank you again to Dublin City Comics. We do have our giveaway prizes from last month that we're going to announce the winner of at the break. And the prize we have for giveaway this month is the fantastic Heroes Feast. I keep covering my mouth when I'm near the microphone. Heroes Feast cookbook, the official D&D cookbook. And it's got all sorts of lovely recipes inside it. One here called Bangers and Smash. Nothing makes a dwarf stand quite so tall in the morning as a breakfast platter steaming with sausages and smashed baby potatoes. We also have...
Don't draw that.
Let me see now. Hogs in bed.
Perverts.
Hogs in bedrolls. Few things, but a spring and a halfling step. Quite like the buttery sausage scent of freshly baked hogs.
Why do they all start with these people getting the horn?
Yeah, I don't know.
Dungeons and Dorks.
Dungeons and Dorky bastards. Yeah, so there's a multitude, like a plethora, a veritable plethora. And actually, it's really funny. The quote on the back, right?
Yeah.
No great adventure is complete without a hero's feast. Had a long day at work slaying dragons and hexing kobolds. Bet you've worked up quite an appetite smiting trolls, dungeon delving, haven't you? Well, ready a tall tankard of mead and brace yourself for a culinary journey to match any quest. Tom Morello, Rage Against the Machine. That's the quote.
Hell, Tom.
That's the quote on the book. It's amazing. Anyway, so yes, that is the giveaway prize for this month's episode, the Heroes Feast Cookbook from Dungeons and Dragons. All thanks to our fantastic ongoing sponsors, Dublin City Comics. So, without further ado, let's jump straight back into where we left off in the last episode. The trio of adventurers seem to have been thrust back in time and have landed in the mysterious Underdark, where they discovered a helpless baby cradled in the dead form of a blood-sworn, what seems to be a blood-sworn fighter. They rescued the baby and start making their way. The baby, we have the baby. They start making their way through the Underdark and camped, and then stumbled upon by a very young paladin called Articus, who seems to have some sort of history, or will have some sort of history, with Grey Pipstrell. Much to the shock of Grey in themselves, as they find this young version of the paladin that will meet them later down the road of life. They are then brought to the paladin's camp, where they discover there is a veritable gaggle of refugees that are fleeing the Underdark and fleeing the kind of the oppressive drow. And there's a mixture of drow and other races here, but the majority of the refugees all seem to be drow themselves. And as they wait for the captain of the guard to arrive, they start kind of sussing out the space and sussing out people around them. And Zilzara is starting to wonder whether her parents are part of this group, because they firmly believe that this child is actually a younger version of herself. And just as they're thinking this, and just as Grey has put his head down for a bit of a nap, the captain of the Paladin Guard arrive, and it turns out to be the crew member, Azira Brightscale, who also accompanied them to the temple of the temple of a kind of saloon slash shar, which is like a perverted kind of place of worship that they were thrust through the time portal in. And that was the last time they saw her. Now they see her again, standing before them, much older, and the leader of this group of paladins. And that is where we're going to kick off this month's episode of Sorcery Shenanigans. So Gray has just quietly dropped off to sleep. Silzara and Emperor Brennan have been having a chat while Emperor Brennan is still kind of carrying the baby in its swaddle. What are the group doing at this point? As Azira stands over you after proclaiming it took you quite a long time, and thankfully you're all now here.
I mean, I think Gray is too confused to really say anything. Between just waking up and not understanding the time shift, I'm going to leave this one to some of the brighter members of the party.
Silzara takes in Azira, how Azira is looking, and as you said, she's obviously older than the last time.
She definitely looks older, yeah.
So she says to her, hang on a minute. I last saw you in the temple. Where did you come from? Where have you been?
She kind of takes the three of you in, and kind of is a bit kind of a because she doesn't know who Emperor Brennan is. She remembers him from maybe remembers him from the temple, which seemingly was a long time ago for her. But she kind of looks at you, Zilzara, and she's like, "This is a tale best told under cover of my." And she points over towards a tent, the large tent at the end of the encampment, maybe over a drink and some explanations, if you care to follow me. And you can you've taken her full form, and she is in full regalia of a paladin of Saloon. But she is, you can see by her scales and her visage that she is battle worn, much older, as I've said, but like still quite vibrant as Dragonborn goes. She had her kind of like, from her namesake, her name that is Bright Scale, her scales are like kind of an orangey gold color, slightly faded in places, with battle scars across the side of her face. You see that the row of fangs or teeth that kind of adorn the side of her, used to adorn both sides of her mouth. One half now is kind of chipped and jagged, and there's a scar that runs up along her lip. But she is in beautiful paladin regalia, kind of plate armor with the long tabard and that new symbol of what looks like a symbol of Saloon, but it now has this starfield that Brennan recognised as being a very local starfield around where the Flotsam would have been. And it seems to be that she has adapted this as the kind of the tabard or heraldry of her order. And all of she kind of like, as she kind of moves into this space, you see that all the other paladins kind of like bow their heads as she approaches and stuff like that. But she gestures kind of towards her tent, and so like, if you wish to have a conversation in the tent, we can go through everything and I can explain as best I can. And she kind of starts looking around. I think I might require the assistance of some of my fellow combatants, and she kind of tries to look and see the groupings in the campment as she kind of scans the area. She goes, "They don't seem to be here at the moment." And she turns to one of her lieutenants. "When Lithrania arrives, please send her in." And she then steps away and gestures towards the tent at the end of the encampment and asks for the three of you to follow.
Yeah, I'm going to get up and start to follow Azira and say, by the way, you can trust him, gesturing at Brennan.
She kind of looks down because she's towering above Brennan. She kind of looks down, kind of cranes her neck downwards, and is like, "Very well, if that's what you say, I will take your word." And she kind of moves on, and kind of there's a kind of a parting of the paladins that are around her and the refugees, and they keep the four of you start making your way up towards the tent. It's about a 5-minute walk, and you're stepping through the encampment at this point, and you're taking it all in. as you see, like small groups of people. There's no kind of major fires lit here. They're keeping very low, and the whole chamber seems to be lit by the kind of the vegetation and the crystalline formations of the space. Because you're down in a kind of a not so much a valley, but it's like the walkway that brought you down here kind of twisted around, and you're in kind of a hidden alcove that leads downwards, but into what seemingly is a dead end for one tunnel that leads off at the far end of the area to the right side that seems to vanish off, and there seems to be kind of again the fungi light of these blue kind of different sizes, but they're all kind of blue greenish in hue that seem to illuminate this space. And you can see that there's people encamped around. Turn them off. There's people encamped around where you see them kind of sitting, eating dried foods, breads. They're kind of huddled with blankets and cloaks, and they kind of all look up as the four of you walk past, and they see Azira, and they kind of give her a nod, and there seems to be not a jovial spirit, but there's definitely a kind of a look of hope in their eyes as they look haggard and tired, but eager to be on the move in some way.
Does as we're walking through, does anyone else look out of time, or are they all of this era?
Give me either perception or investigation to see if you can spot anything like that.
With a perception, it's 25.
25.
Ooh, nice.
As you kind of look around, you're kind of clocking the groups and different kind of variations, and it's not that they're out of time. And with Brennan with his arcane sense, there seems to be, with such a high roll, actually, the mission you're on, what you're looking for, what your actual goal is, while you're not always 100% sure of it, you know that you can spot fluctuations in the weave. You can spot fluctuations in arcane kind of nature and stuff like that, particularly as a druid. Down here, the place is filled with nature. And there are some people or some individuals here that you clock as arcane in nature with their abilities, and some of them seem to be out of phase slightly with the weave.
Okay.
And it's like when you see them, it takes you a second, and it's like you clock their aura somehow, and it's like something has been taken from them. They don't sit right within the realm and the fabric of the universe anymore, and it's like they're damaged in some way. And you notice this. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll share that information in a polite whisper, as in like to Crane, to Zill. It's not like, oh, look at him. It's more like, yeah, these people are falling on hard times, and some of them seem to have even fallen out of the grace of the weave. Something is seriously wrong here.
Ben, I'm sure you'll appreciate this. I'm finding it very hard not to do that whole SNL 40th anniversary housewives sketch with the whiff, and he will not touch my whiff. Anyway, okay, so we're gonna just be careful with everybody, I presume. Are we just gonna be gentle till we find out what's going on?
Yes, I think just don't be too harsh on these people. They've been through enough.
That's cool.
Oh yeah, look at me.
And
sometimes you gotta send a group text even though it's only one person.
Zilzara, do me a favor. Well, let me see now, your passive perception is 15 beyond would load.
It is
12. Yeah. You people are clocking that you're a drow.
Yeah.
And particularly the way you're dressed and your new shiny armor with the arcane kind of nature to it. But one or two of them seem to do a double take. Like the drow, the kind of it's like you know that feeling when you're on the street and you see somebody and you think that's somebody I know, and then it just turns out somebody that looks like somebody you know.
Yes,
it's that kind of look they have. It's kind of like they're like and one or two of them have that moment where they're about to say hello and then they stop and then they catch themselves and realize that isn't the person I thought it was.
Yeah.
Happens to everyone, but like it's particularly happening in this moment for you because you're clocking at least 3 or 4 of them that are drow that see you and then stop, take in your full form and go, oh, that's not her. What's this?
Okay.
And this is as you're walking. Two couple of minutes takes you into the tent, and you're kind of brought into this. It's not a lavish place; it's quickly assembled. There is a makeshift there's a rock face that's been used as a makeshift table, and there's a very hastily drawn map that's kind of rolled out on it. There's a kind of a water skin on one side. There's some rations on another piece of rock as well. This is kind of more for shelter and looks like for planning in places. As you then notice, there's a couple of more maps rolled up on the ground, kind of around that large rock section that's over on the right hand side of this area. There is a bedroll rolled out, but it looks like it hasn't been used. It looks like it's just freshly rolled out, and it definitely hasn't been slept in. So you see like the different rock formations that have been used as kind of furniture and places to leave maps and all these different things. So Azira kind of gestures to try and make yourselves kind of comfortable, and she offers water from the water skin, and she goes, I'm sorry we don't have anything more alcohol-like, but water down here, clear water at least, is a luxury at most parts. So, you have travelled far, and through time, essentially, if that's to break it to you, if you haven't already realised.
Yeah, we gathered that.
I also travelled, and I travelled a little bit more, further back, a good 150 years more, as you can see. And she gestures to her face, and you see her hands now as well, her claws, like, and stuff. They're weathered and worn, and like she's still her, but it's like obviously a very much older version, and even for a dragonborn. But one of these side effects of the travel seems to be that in my continuing service of Saloon, and the formation of this, and she gestures it to the Herald and the Standard, I landed not far. I did not want to go near the South Coast, for I have family there, and I didn't want to mess up anything that could have endangered my future. So I stuck generally to the Midlands, went more eastward, and I formed this order. And I knew that something was eventually going to come, and hopefully you were eventually going to arrive, and I was going to be able to aid you in some way. So I built this order in order to be ready, and we have been fighting for Saloon and for any open threats of Tharizdun and their appearance. And funnily enough, a situation presented itself. And she kind of looks up as the flap of the tent opens, and a tall, kind of muscular but lithe female drow form steps in. A kind of dark leather armor, highly intricate. Her hair tied tight or up and into a bun at the back of her head. Her pinched face and drow ears out. Her obsidian skin, like one of the darker than usual, Zara, just ever so slightly. But Gray and Brennan, you notice this straight away, is that you cannot mistake the resemblance with this female drow who has stepped into the tent on Zilzara. It's not exactly like her, but there's across the eyes, the high cheekbones, the stern look. It's essentially like it's like an older version of what Zilzara is. As she steps into the tent and kind of scans the area, and her eyes come to rest on Zilzara, and she kind of does a double take, and she kind of steps forward and says, "Vaconia, no."
No.
And Zilzara, I don't know if you would recognize your mother straight off. What memory you have of her from a young age, what image you have of her.
Yeah.
But as your mother, Lathrana, steps into the tent, Lathrana Vrin Mizzruin of House Zilath, a highborn drow warrior. She kind of looks confused as you bear a striking resemblance to her sister Vaconia. She kind of falters a bit and looks at Azira. She goes, Azira, who are these people? And her eyes keep darting to you. And Azira kind of like gestures a hand out and is like, these are friends. These are the people I told you about, the people I was waiting for. They are here to help. Trust me, they will help. It's kind of like Zil. I don't know how Zil is feeling in this moment.
She's a little confused. Like when Lithuania walked into the tent, she had the moment of, hang on a second. And I suppose she did kind of figure she was probably going to run into her parents, given they've ended up in the camp. And she said, last episode, oh, I really don't want to run into them. But I suppose wasn't expecting to be confronted with her mother. And I suppose, like, in Z's reality, her mom is gone. She's been gone a long time, I suppose. Drower, long lived. But she was, kind of a teenager when her mom passed. So this is a much younger version of her mom. So it took her a minute to kind of go, hang on. And like that kind of thing that you mentioned a few minutes ago, is that somebody that I recognize? But also, she's in amongst tons of strangers, so wasn't expecting her to like walk through the tent immediately. And also her being very, very suspicious of nature as well. She doesn't necessarily want to believe that this is her mum straight off. So she's waiting for somebody to categorically say, this is your mother. And I suppose given kind of Brennan talking about, the weave, and she's also like, in the back of her head, she's like, I also don't want to fuck things up for us in terms of future events. So she's wrestling with a lot, but she's trying to stay quiet in order to kind of preserve any potential timeline that could get messed up. But yeah, she's taken aback, and for once she is, for one of the very few times in her life, she is silent through no desire of her own.
Sure. And can I ask two things? So the blade you found on the Bloodsworn, the start of the last episode, who has that blade right now? Do you have that blade?
No, I thought Gray had it.
Okay. And your crystal, your amethyst crystal, is it out or hidden?
It's tucked into her tunic.
Okay. So, as Lithuania steps in and Azira says this, she kind of looks over at Brennan now, and she sees the baby in swaddling clothes wrapped around you, and she kind of steps forward, a look of shock on her face, and she kind of like, "Is it?"
Oh, yes. Sorry. This is probably yours.
And she just hear her shout at the top of her voice, "Kill them all! Kill them all!" And she kind of goes to kind of step.
They're sleeping.
And you hear like a rush of steps from outside the tent, and the tent door flaps open, and a male drow steps in rough kind of leather armor, with a kind of a short sword in his hand, one hand, and a dagger in the other, and he steps in, rushes in, and kind of pushes in beside Lithuania as you see your father now step into field, as he is now looking at Lithuania, and then kind of like, what's wrong? And Lithuania's kind of moving towards Brennan, her hands out, and he kind of follows her hands, and he kind of looks shocked in his face. He just drops the blades and gets down on his knees and rushes over towards you, and just starts to slowly but surely take the baby out of the swaddle quietly.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of,
Z is looking at Azira, kind of this appealing look on her face, to be like, what the fuck is going on? Because as soon as she heard the Dre say Calamar, she's like, holy fuck, that's my dad's name. That is my mum. And she's like, kind of stunned, doesn't really know what to do.
Azira kind of sees this, and she kind of steps forward, her hands out calmingly towards you. It's like, the Throna and Calamar here. Sorry, wrong voice. The Throna and Calamar here are members of a group that has helped us rescue these refugees. They are from a drow settlement a few miles west of here that were responsible, a group of priestesses that were responsible for a ritual that would be performed in the name of love as part of a protection spell against Thara's Doomed. They were sacrificing from children to young adults and stealing, and this is the strange part, it's magic I have not witnessed. They would take somebody with potential, great potential, somebody who could be something special and change the realms around them, influence things, be someone who was a power of good and a power of evil. And they would take that potential and remove it from the weave in order to protect the realms themselves or the plane. Put up a barrier using that stolen potential. And as she says this, Brennan, you remember back to exactly what you clocked on the way in, that there are people in the camp that have had something removed from them through Arcana, and it's that very thing.
Boy genius with potential, or maybe just a boy with ADHD. But either way, something's been stolen from this boy.
Their own child. And Azira, she gestures towards the baby and Swaddling, that they're now kind of huddled over like a family reunited, and they've completely forgotten about the rest of the people in the tent, and they're just huddled around their child. And it's not that they're not, you don't hear sobs or anything like that. They're just like in shock to see the baby. The Thvana's sister Viconia was a blood-sworn fighter, paladin of, and I'm going to fuck this name up, Elistri, the drow goddess of the dance. She and her sister, who is also a paladin of Elistri, secretly defied the drow rulers after Viconia's own daughter was sacrificed, one of the first to be sacrificed. And this is when she swore her blood out to protect any more children. And their daughter, she gestures down to the baby, their daughter, Zelzara, was one of the last taken. And Viconia rescued her and seemingly paid for it with her life, if I'm not mistaken, by the looks of things.
Yeah, I think so.
I have no knowledge of this.
Are you saying that out loud?
Yeah.
I would.
I was never told any of this.
It was probably for your... Zero whispers this to you. It was probably for your own protection. I'm going to have to... Well, your parents rolled really shit on perception, so they did not hear any of that.
Okay.
They both one rolled a 5 and the other one rolled a 2, so not very perceptive.
So are you saying that my aunt saved me before the priestesses could remove my potential?
Seemingly, you were. And you, how loud are you saying this?
I'm saying it quite quietly, and I'm kind of pointing it at Azira.
Okay. She basically did, apparently. I mean, did you find her? Did you just find the child?
We found the child dead, or we found the child in her arms, and she unfortunately had been mortally wounded on her way back. We found a pile of Loth followers that she had dispatched, but it appeared that one of them stabbed her before she got away. The baby was crying, and she had already perished.
She was a formidable adversary. And you can see there is sadness on Azira's face. Like, I knew her, if only for a brief time, and I would have called her friend. She was powerful, righteous, and sounds like she went down the way she lived, and she fought hard. We will drink to her later. But for now, I advise caution. Yes, these are your parents, and she's saying this very quietly. But whether you choose to tell them is your choice. I do not know what effect it will have. You know you survive. You know you get out of here. For you stand before us all. I do not know the path. But we must find it together, I believe. We have some ideas, but it will take all of us to do this. And as she finishes, you notice behind her then your parents have stood up and they're still huddled in close. And your mother looks up and looks at all of three of you. Is like, did I hear you say you found my sister?
Yes. She was gone.
She kind of looks at Calamar and he kind of very dourly nods his head, and we thank you. You have done us a great service. My sister will be remembered. She was powerful, and she served us all well as best she could. We cannot repay you for what you have done. You have brought our Zilzara back to us, and we will keep her safe and protect her from whatever comes.
I know you will.
And she kind of still has that puzzled look to her face, but she kind of like nods, and Calamar kind of looks up and is like, are you part of the house? Have we met at some point? You seem familiar in some way. Are you part of the troop?
We just got here, and as fortune would have it, we came across your child and felt we needed to return her, myself and my companions.
Nusrana kind of nods. It's like, might I ask, did you find my sister's blade on her? Or was it stolen by that filth?
We saw the blade.
You have it. I think you have it. Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't going to take it because I have such a lovely, lovely, lovely blade, but I did. Yes, I think we did take it. Yeah. Okay, sorry. Yes, we do have it. I have it. And I get it out of the bag of holding.
She gingerly kind of takes it from you and turns it in her hand. And as she does so, you see kind of like there's a small arcane kind of flicker of energy that moves from her hand and into the blade. And it's like it starts to sing ever so slightly as the curve of it lights up. It's like a dark, kind of like a polished obsidian, but it runes, like these beautiful blue runes start to light up along, and it starts to glow as if it's pure silver. And they dance up along the blade to its tip. And it's not that like fire licks off it, but it's like there's like an arcane glow that seems to just flicker off it. And she kind of moves it around in the air. And she kind of stops. And as she's kind of staring at the blade, she meets your eyes, Zilzara. And she drops the blade down. And she reaches for a similar blade strapped to her back, and she pulls it out. and it activates as well, and the two of them come together, and they're like twin blades.
Mhm.
And she kind of twists the hilt in her hand and catches it with the blade downwards on her arm, and then sheaths her own one. And the blade deactivates, and she hands it forwards and hands it directly to you. And she goes, I wish for you to have this as thanks. You are a protector. And this blade belongs to somebody who has done good. And she kind of moves it towards you and seems like she definitely wants you to take it.
Okay, I'm gonna take it from her. Thank you. It's not often people associate me with having done something good. Happy to be of service.
Oh my God, Zill just said the word happy.
She kind of nods and turns to Calamar, and they kind of nod in unison towards you and just gently move outside with the still sleeping baby Zilzara or Lil Zil. Leaving you, the three of you, in the tent with Azira. After that very emotional scene, the Oscars go to and all that type of jazz. So, what are the group doing in this moment? What do you want to do? Does one of you, anything in particular you want to go over? What do you want to do?
Z is taking the biggest exhalation she's ever taken in her life. She's she's a little bit, what the fuck? Oh yeah, she's gonna turn to our Doar friend and say, I assume the best course of action would be to not reveal myself to my parents.
I would be of the same assumption, but hard to tell, really. I mean, your friend Azira purposely avoided her family and started an order to avoid any sort of temporal flux, but time is sturdier than you think. When it comes to chronomancy, potentially the thing is to reveal yourself, and that might solidify something. It's hard to know, really. There is something going to happen here, a nexus point that we need to either make sure does or does not happen. And I don't know about you all, but I'm feeling rather ghastly. I haven't had a chance to rest ever since I became a single father, and now I'm free of that burden. I wouldn't mind just a wee snooze.
I mean,
yeah,
sure. I mean, we all kind of need it. I'm gonna if we find somewhere to settle, I'm gonna try and pick out some little plaintive tones to soothe Brennan's nerves.
Azira is like, by all means, we can find you bedding and somewhere to stay. And I mean,
no need. This one's fresh and looks perfectly fine for us.
And she kind of stops and she's like, I'm not going to use it. And she kind of just gestures towards the bedroll that's still unused, because she doesn't seem to have any intention of going to sleep anytime soon. We will have some rations brought in if you're hungry. I understand your hesitation, and I agree with your friend here. Who knows what the course of action is? My course of action was to avoid any circumstances that would reveal my displacement. And maybe I was wrong. But I think I've created something special here, because this order will last way past my time. And will continue to do good in Saloon's name. But do what you will and what you think is best. But please, remember, my first course of action is getting all of these people to safety. And that is something I wish to speak to you all about, but maybe after you've had some rest. My abode, as it is now yours to partake of. I will have some food brought in, and I will answer any more questions, maybe after a couple of hours of sleep. And she bows and kind of pats her chest and leaves the tent, leaving the three of you there in your new dwelling. So,
Yeah, Z's gonna sit down on the ground cross-legged and try and meditate and see if she can also make a decision on what she wants to do about revealing herself to her parents or not.
Still, if you'd like, I could. We're so far underground, it'd be hard to make a connection to them, but I could consult the stars, see if there's any omens
guide
or
us?
yes, or potentially a guidance there.
Yeah, is there anything you need me to do?
Just be you. The most you could be. The most like singularly exactly you. No variation. No whims of fancy unless that's exactly what you're like. And if there's anything that just makes you feel more you than anything else in the world, do that.
I'm gonna need some wine.
And some Sisters of Mercy.
Hey now.
hey, now.
Hey now.
No.
Yes, so I suppose she gets comfortable sitting cross-legged. She is there. Did Azira say she'd send food, or is there food in the
She
tent
can
already?
send. She can send to, like, after, depending on how long you're gonna get nestled down. A couple of minutes later, like, one of the paladins sticks their head in and they hand in a small bag of rations with like dried meats, bread, maybe some hard cheese. If you want, you could do a persuasion or an investigation to see if you could rustle up some cheap ass underdark wine.
Yeah,
It's totally your call there.
I'll try and
Somebody might have some
roll.
stashed away that they're willing to give in to the saviors of children.
There's also no way that we don't have a bottle in this bag.
That's
I mean,
a good
I
point,
just
actually,
can't
yeah.
see Zill leaving villages without getting a bit of duty free.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that is true.
We'll say, okay,
Yeah.
well, we'll say that that's the kind, yeah.
Just so you know, when the sheet lies, it lies. When the player lies, it lies. It's also that I can get away with minor criminal offenses due to my bad reputation as a pirate, according to my character sheet. And I don't need to pay for food at a tavern or to if I break down doors, since most people will not report my activity to the authorities. I imagine if we put a little spin on that, it's because what would they say? A penguin came here. So, bad reputation versus you'll never believe what just happened, and if I stop it, I won't have the story. So if needs be, I can go just nick something.
I'd say we'll do a mix of everything. We'll do a mix of everything. You give us a roll.
I tried rolling persuasion and I rolled a 10.
A 10, okay. As Gray is rummaging through the bag of holding, like full-on Mary Poppins style, like shoulder deep, trying to get in there, Brennan vanishes outside the tent. Brennan, you're milling about the kind of area, and you see like different gatherings of people, and like it's the news of a child being found, saved from the sacrifice that they were all trying to escape from, has put a jovial hum throughout the entire encampment. And you notice that there are one or two people that are bringing out snifty little flasks, and they're like toasting.
Little snaky drink.
Little snaky drink, like, sneaking it into the cinema type malarkey. And like you see them all like toasting slightly in timbals of what seems to be like a dark, kind of hefty, Buckfast-esque liquid. And they're all sipping on. And one of the drow who is off in one corner with 3 or 4 other drows, and they're toasting this in these small little kind of shot glasses. They pour it out of their little flask, their hip flask, and they set the hip flask down on the side of a rock. And you kind of like deftly walk up. And they're all kind of like not really paying much attention. And you just, I'm not even going to make you roll for it. It's just a case of your flipper goes out. You now have this, beautiful platinum plated flask that has a very earthy smelling kind of liqueur inside it. That you can then make away. And you might swipe a couple of hard crackers that you see as well there, whatever takes your fancy, and then you make your way back to the tent. So with the combined role of Zilzar talking to one of the paladins to see what they can bring in, and they bring in some kind of small kind of like, those really small bottles of like 1 servings of wine that you can buy in Marks and Sparks. They bring in a small
yeah.
one of those of the holy wine of Ceylon that they have and they keep on their supplies. So you literally get paper wine. You get whatever bottle of wine that Gray pulls out of the bag of holding eventually, along with some kind of dried meats. And then you have this kind of Buckfast-esque kind of tonic wine that is in this small platinum-plated hip flask that Brennan has managed to cobble together from his walking around the camp. And it turns out to be a nice little. It's like one of those situations where you're hungry for something and you don't really know what you have in the fridge, and you just get a bit of everything, and it's all mixed and laid out on the floor of the tent, and you kind of imbibe and take what you want from that.
Okay.
As you kind of start talking about any planned meditations or whatever you want to do. Gray, is there anything you want to do in this moment?
No, chill with the folks. I amused by Brennan's larceny, and yeah, I need a rest. I was on first watch, never got a honk shoe before, so I will be doing that. Oh, I'm just circling the ground to get into a nice ball.
Okay. Cool. So you partake of the kind of the selection of different foods, different kind of beverages, and that tonic wine is tart and it's heavy and it's an interesting flavor, and it kind of has the aftertaste is like cinnamony, but it's kind of gritty as it goes down. Think like Turkish coffee.
Definitely fucking Buckfast.
Yeah. And like, what is it that Zilzara and Brennan, what are you planning to do here? What do you want to do in this moment?
So he said, Brennan told Z to be the most Z that she can be. So she's gonna take out her amethyst, because generally it helps her realign herself. And she's gonna sit cross-legged on the floor, put her new fancy blade across her knees, and hold onto her amethyst with one hand and rest her other hand on her knee, and just do the normal steps that she does when she's trying to meditate, but she'll also try and focus on Brennan and what he is trying to do, which was to get some guidance from the stars.
Brennan, what are you doing? Okay, excellent. Brennan, what are you doing in this moment?
I'm going to take the 2 empty little glass bottles of wine, not the tonic wine, and place them across the tent. He's just going to waddle over and then waddle back over to Zil. Like, right, and this is where it gets a little bit strange. And excuse me, I might be slightly more blotto than I was a second ago. But essentially, if I hit that one, talk to your parents, and if I hit that one, don't talk to your parents. Sound good?
Doesn't sound very
right. Let's do it. And you'll feel the kind of air around Brennan chill a little bit as he transforms from his Dawar form into his starry form, which is a constellation archer appears around him. So as a bonus action, as a druid of the circle of stars, I can activate a form where this like explosion of constellations happens around, and then it's usually for combat, but for the sake of this, it's more fun.
Yeah.
And I can make a ranged spell attack, hurling a luminous arrow that targets one creature and deals radiant damage. But I'm just going to spin magical schoolgirl style, star form, activate, and then just fire and hope for the best. Illustrious DM.
So
please make sense of what I'm saying.
So you watch as it starts out as being the explanation of hit that bottle, it's going to be talk to your parents, hit that bottle, don't talk to your parents. But then Brennan does this movement that fills the tent with starlight. And Gray, you're kind of getting comfy, but all of a sudden you're wide awake as the stars explode around you, and these constellations just whirl in front of you. You kind of look like you're inside the sphere in Las Vegas. It just illuminates up into the tent. And Zil, you feel the arcane pulse hit you, as this kind of the archer form starts to get traced out in the starlight, and you see it like it's being traced like a constellation as the bow has been drawn back. Um, Brennan, roll me a d6, please. 1 to 3, 1 to 3, talk to parents. 4 to 6, don't talk to parents.
1 to 3, talk to parents.
Talk to parents. So you got a 2.
It's 2. Yeah.
Okay. And you watch as the archer, seemingly blindly at first, starts to arc through the air, and then you see this boom. And what it promises to be a massive explosion of starlight is just ping, and the bottle just falls over. And Brennan is just left standing there, kung fu pose style, as the constellations swirl back into his form. He stops glowing. His cape, fluttering in the air, just settles itself, and his hat stops waving ever so slightly. And you're left sitting there cross-legged, expecting something magically spectacular to happen to yourself and to feel illuminated. You're kind of going, okay, so the stars tell me I have to talk to my parents.
Okay. That's it?
Well, yes, it's well, I suppose in a way, when the arrow was mid-flight, on its journey through the stars, on its way towards destiny, what did you want to happen? I often find, like flipping a coin, sometimes in the air, you kind of know your answer.
I wanted to talk to my mom.
Perfect. Talk to her. But maybe in the morning.
Yes.
I find new parents are a little bit more accommodating in the morning, less so as the fatigue settles in.
Oh my God, Brennan, the stolen valor.
As a recent new parent myself and well familiar with the lack of sleep.
No, that's what you were saying.
I've lasted one night without any sleep. It's dreadful.
Okay. Right, so I'll talk to them tomorrow. Okay, well, on that note, I definitely think we could all use some actual rest. Gray's eyes look like they're going to pop out of his head. He's so tired.
Yeah.
Good night, Dill. Good night, Gray. And don't worry, tomorrow I'll be on hand to kill you or your mother if something goes wrong.
What?
And Brennan, are you taking up the entire bedroll that was meant for Zira?
Well, here's the thing. I looked up how do penguins sleep. Apparently, and this is mind-blowing, they sleep 1,000 times a day in tiny little naps. Which is
wow.
standing up, they just kind of like just sleep that way.
Power
I
naps.
think that's game breaking for D&D. So no wonder the Dowar don't sleep that way.
Yeah.
But I will sleep. Like one of those balance toys. He'll just fall flat in his tummy and go sleep like a sound little baby. But yes, I'll take up the entire bedroom.
Okay. And Gray is curled up. Zil, are you meditating, or are you gonna just what do you want to do at this point?
Yeah, so she's just going to tuck her amethyst away again, leave the blade to one side, and kind of relax in, because she doesn't sleep. She's just going to relax into kind of a more neutral meditation pose so that she can get some rest.
Okay. So all three of you put your head down in your own special way, and you drift off to sleep. And Brennan, you get you get the equivalent of 1,000 power naps all in one go, because single parenthood has taken its toll on you this day, and you need your rest. Zil, you fall into kind of a lulling meditation, feeling the hum of your amethyst crystal. You feel the cold blade on your lap, and as your mind drifts off, you kind of feel it like there's like a comfort in the back of your head. Gray, you drift. You drift into what begins as a dreamless sleep, and you don't kind of have any real thought as you fall off, but then your dreams start to get a bit fractious because you start to remember what has happened over the last 24 to 48 hours. Essentially, what has happened to you all over the last entire couple of weeks. The chaos, the constantly on the move, the now hurtling through time, being met face to face with Articus in his younger form. And you're by your subconscious to relive this battle with that gargantuan corrupted mimic, where seemingly golden form with a shield protected you and kept you alive, as you flash through these moments in your mind. And then you find yourself just sitting, cross-legged, in the Underdark. And all the foliage is all around you. And you see a long, wide, ominous, open piece of water, like that lake that was underground that you saw. And in the center of it, you see a tower sitting on a piece of land. And there's like a green light right in the center of the town that is flashing, just pulsing slightly. And you're kind of squinting. You can't help but squint to see what it is. And then you hear footsteps up behind you. And you turn, and it's Articus. Still young, still in his Paladin of Saloon garb, as he's kind of standing over you, his shield strapped over his back, his light hammer at his side, as he squints and looks at the light, now growing brighter and brighter. It's that green pulsing light, sickly. And he kind of like, I really think you've had your life saved a bit too much of late. And he turns to look at you, and his eyes are pure black. And his skin starts to mold away and mottle and fall apart. And he brings his light hammer up, slowly but surely. And you see across his arms are scars, glowing green, bright, as the curse of Shar seems to have taken root. And he brings his hammer up and swings it down and hits you clean in the head. And you wake up. And you can't tell when it's night or morning. You're in the tent, you look over and Zill is still meditating. Brennan is like just slowly but surely rocking back and forth in his sleep. You can't tell how long you've been asleep. You feel partially rested. What do you feel in that moment as you wake up?
Horror. Yeah, a sense of what's to come. Foreboding. But did I get a sensation in my tattoos or anything like that while I was going through all that? I wasn't real, I suppose, so.
You kind of look down at yourself and you see that it's like they were glowing and they're just dying down. And they're prominent. They're there. And you can feel them kind of along your fur. And they're not stinging in any way. It's like when you put on a deep heat patch and it's that warmth. That's what it feels like as it moves up through your body. And you're kind of like, oh. And you get it's a sickly feeling in your stomach. And it's partially you kind of like, was it the food you ate? Was it the shitty wine that you drank? Or is that a sense of foreboding of stuff to come?
Yeah.
And it takes you a couple of minutes, but you eventually drift back off to sleep and you finish your long rest. And all three of you get a long rest for the evening.
Okay. It's going to make me a little apprehensive about Articus, but it's not going to change my behavior a lot. It's just going to advise me about what's coming. Could I talk to Brennan about Saloon?
Sure.
Does Brennan know anything about Saloon?
Brennan would know, I think, wouldn't he? Brennan would have a general idea.
He's the most religion any character I've ever played has had, which is +4. So, yeah, I think so.
So, I mean, you can give me, we can do a couple of things here. You can role play it if you want, whatever way you want to handle it, whatever way you want to do it. And I would, as a character that, like, you're the player, it's your character, but as a character, as the way he's written, for yourself, I believe personally as the DM, I think Brennan would have a general idea of a lot of the deities because they all intermingle with the weave. So any kind of heavily magic-based deities, and particularly between Mistra and Saloon, you would have some knowledge. And if needs be, as the DM, I can fill in gaps if needs be. So please feel free to do whatever you need to.
All right, I'm going to make my way over to Brennan if Brennan is approachable.
Morning.
Hi, Brennan. Can I talk to you for a minute?
You are.
Okay, I can't do this. Okay, I'm gonna carry on. So, Brennan, we have got something big on our hands here. And we're going to be enlisting divine assistance to combat a divine threat. How do you sit with this if you believe one thing but need to call to another to help? Does that make you feel bad, or is the fact that you're trying to do good, is that enough for the deities out there to help or to answer?
Oh, wow. Quite an existential pondering for the first wink of the morning. We're talking about gods, good versus evil. I mean, what is good? You might be thinking you're doing good today, and in 200 years' time, it's revealed that it was the worst thing you could have done. For the good of everything. It's all very big, and all very incomprehensible. I find sometimes just consulting the zodiac, depending on which star sign you were born under, and finding out what steps you can take that day, is all we really can do. It's a bit of a cop-out to think that my fate and destiny is in the hands of something bigger than me, but at the very least, I don't think one small Dowa can do that much damage one way or the other. Though I wouldn't feel bad about asking for help. Ever. Even if the person you're asking isn't the person you normally go to ask for help.
Yeah, I suppose if they're so powerful, they're going to see your motivation. They're going to see what the mission is. They're going to understand what needs to happen. As long as we're not totally wrong-headed about what needs to happen. But we saw the damage that's coming, right? So...
yes, I mean, it's... something big is happening, and like I say, I'm in two minds about this, because nature and the weave and magic, by its very essence, is a chaotic substance. It's frankly arrogant of us to assume we could ever control it. And yet, we can't live in a world full of chaos and uncertainty. We need it to just know. At the end of the day, when you put your heart in your sleeve and you ask someone a simple question, you need to know whether they're going to say yes or no. And then there's your thing. So yes, we all have shit going on. Yes. But either way, we should get back to our own time. And if that involves asking a deity for a favor, let's do it. And if they say no, fuck them.
Lads, in fairness, I asked the Doar for spiritual guidance. So that's on
Yeah,
me.
that
That's
is on
on
you.
me. That's on me. But he's such a fussy britches. I thought he would have his dogmas in a row. And he kind of does in that he doesn't. Okay. All right. That's
The only certainty is uncertainty. Tally ho.
that's really helpful, Brennan. Thank you. It is a bit early. Let's get some coffee. We'll get some coffee.
Start the day with coffee. Well, that's one fork in the path.
Right. I need to get away from Brennan's thinking for a minute.
Don't we all? You get a break from him. I don't.
I love watching the face change. I'm like, oh shit, here comes Brennan.
Oh, he's gone and he's back.
He's okay.
Amazing.
So yeah, I'm up. I'm existential, but I'm here.
Okay. It's not an Alanis Morissette song. So
I'm here, but I'm existential.
yeah. You had is Gray heading out of the tent?
Yeah.
Okay. Zill, what are you doing at this moment? You kind of don't know whether you cop the conversation between the two, whether you've come out of your meditative trance at that point.
No, she's only coming out of it now. And to be fair, her mind is kind of preoccupied anyway with the prospect of revealing herself to her parents and actually talking to them. So I don't think she'd register what the other two were talking about, to be fair.
Okay. What are you doing at this moment? You see Gray, you kind of come out of your trance just as Gray is exiting out of the tent. You see his tail just kind of disappear between the two tent flaps. He steps out. And Brennan, I take it you're just getting yourself ready for the morning.
Yeah, I'll do that druidic thing of changing my spells around depending on and consulting the charts to see what the wind says.
Sure. So what did the group want to do in this moment? Gray, you're out looking for coffee. There is a hustle and bustle. You can hear there's a little bit of a hustle and bustle out in the encampment. They're trying to keep it as quiet as they can, but the general noise, because there is no night cycle in the Underdark. It's just the Underdark. So there's the same noises at all times. The same drip of water off in the distance, the same weird animalistic or unanimalistic sounds echoing through the cave system. The weird hum of these kind of bioluminescence and fungi. So it's kind of like the same noise that you heard when you arrived, but everyone's trying to keep it on the down low.
Zia is going to exit the tent and have a look for Azira to see if she can ascertain where her parents are staying. So kind of find out from Azira where her folks are.
Okay.
And kind of indicate to her that she's going to have a chat with them.
Okay. Brandon, what do you want to do?
I have something in mind, but I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Where do you land on the mushrooms all being one thing versus all being like?
Oh, you mean
hive?
like an interconnectivity hive?
The Myco
Yeah.
network.
There is a network, but it's different. So there's different types of networks depending on the type of mushroom. So there's a multitude of different types and different breeds, and it's kind of like they're extremely racist. So they don't mix with other mushrooms. So they stick to their own kind. So you see one large fungi with a massive cap that's glowing blue, and every single mushroom with a massive cap and glowing blue is linked to all the other ones. And then the small green ones with the puff of green that comes off them, they're all linked, so on and so forth. That's the way I would look at it. So whatever way you want to play with that.
Yeah, that's good to know. I'm conscious that we need to, Brennan specifically needs to find what's weird about here, and he is just but one tiny Dowar. So I'd like to try find the most populous fungi and cast Speak with Plants.
Okay.
To try get a sense of everything that's around us.
Okay. You kind of have to step slightly away. Like there is, if you're doing it away from people, are you doing it like in plain sight, or are you just doing it just to do it?
Yeah, I don't think he's
nobody's gonna accuse the penguin. So as we said, so you kind of, as the other two head off in their respective quests of parental confrontation and coffee, you find a large cluster. What particular type of mushroom are you going for here?
I'm going for whatever feels like, if I'm looking around this cave system, has the widest spread of color. So if I'm looking at something that's
Okay.
kind of like orange and I see orange in the distance, to peek behind the curtain,
Yeah.
I'm basically just going to ask this network of mushrooms, have you noticed anything weird?
So-
What's going on?
The prominent ones here are these tall, thin-stalked, what seem to be kind of a light bluish, tall, wide-capped mushroom. They're kind of giving shelter in sections of the cave system, but their luminescence is bright and bluish, and it gives off the general glow, and you can see it traveling all the way through. And you've seen it all the way through here. The mushrooms that you actually hid under near the lakeside, they were these types of mushrooms, and they seem to be the most prominent. And you find a cluster of them not too far up the path, off to the side, to the left-hand side of the encampment, as they lead back up the winding pathway that goes out into the caves. And you cast Speak with Plants, and you kind of reach out. And what do you want to say to them?
I'm also like, by all means, feel free to say mushrooms aren't plants. You would be technically correct, but yeah, just I'll go over and go, oh, hello, good morning. My name is Emperor Brennan, and your name is?
We are the Blues. Who do you speak for?
I speak for the black and whites and the kind of multicolored and the slightly purplish of the Dowa variety. I speak for the Council of the Weave, if you've heard of them.
We have not. Do you have an accord with the orange? And you look around as they say this, and you see small caps of orange mushrooms here and there. Do you have an accord with the orange?
I don't, but I have played the role of ambassador before, so if you do need to establish a connection, then I'm your man.
If a mushroom could recoil, you get the sense that's what this thing is doing. It's like you see a kind of a shiver in the plant system, and it kind of moves through the walls. No, we do not wish to liaise with the orange. They are filth. They are below us. We are the mighty blue caps. We oversee it all. We are the shade. We are the light. The orange are filth. We do not like them.
Then you're the we for me. You're the overseers. You oversee everything. I'm wondering, and I doubt there's anything that passes by your notice. Have you noticed a nexus in time, a sort of a shattering of the weave, something that could destroy all of the universe's control over magic and potentially collapse it all in on itself? Anything describing that description in the nearby vicinity?
We are mushrooms. You have said a connection of words that we do not understand. I could tell you where the orange are and where the orange aren't. I could tell you the way out, the way deeper. We could show you multitudes. But of this weave you speak of, we know nothing. It sounds big.
It's everywhere. It's the network that connects us all, really.
And it's like just a low-level kind of wibble from the collective of the fungi in the area. Do you seek something specific here in the dark?
Yes. I suppose if you could tell me where none of you are, that might be a place to start. I suppose I am looking for a vacuum of sorts.
You are looking for a void. A place
Yes.
we dare not grow.
Yes.
A dangerous place.
Yes, exactly
where
that.
Even we dare not exist. There is such a place. There are a few. There are some where these creatures... And you see the stalk of this large formation kind of lilt in the general direction of the refugee camp.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, where these creatures dwell, not far from here to the east. It is a foreboding evil place, which this dark tunnel system is full of. It is the underdark after all. But unspeakable things have been performed here. Things we have been witness to.
Yes, the robbing of potential. Yeah, I kind of know about that. I guess it could be this. I suppose it's exactly that. You take away someone's potential within destiny, and you do that enough, and well, the weave's going to try to fill that void and potentially collapse in on itself.
There is
very smart, Blue.
It is a void of madness. We dare not extend our network. None do, not even the Orange. They are filled, but it is a place of unspeakable actions, and we have seen so much from far. We do not wish to see any more. I would avoid it if I were you. It is anti-life, anti-growth, anti-network, anti-blue. It is dangerous.
Yes, well, I suppose I have no choice but to go there. And if doing so and doing what I need to do, it might save all the blues. And unfortunately, a few of the oranges.
You wish to save us from this void?
Very much so, yes.
It is growing. It is expanding. It has consumed us in a way. And it sometimes talks to us, but we dare not listen. If you were to help, we could light your way. Partially, if you wish.
I would very much wish that. I only wish I could give you something in return.
You promise protection for the blue. That is enough.
Until my dying breath.
Mm-hmm. Then we will consume you.
Yes.
You are small, but you will provide sustenance for small blue.
It would be an absolute pleasure. I swear to you now, when I fall on this earth, wherever that may be, or in the stars, that my essence should find its way to blue.
I believe you should take some with you, if that is the case. And you see a stalk extend from the side of this large mushroom, like a sprout, just like sprouting out from the side, as another small little cap appears. And then a couple of more little pop, 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 as a kind of a little sprig of mushrooms. You know those grow in the bag mushrooms that you can buy? It's kind of like looking like in a flowering of those as they kind of extend and detach themselves from the essence, like an offering towards you.
Everything in Ben does not want to touch this creep. But Emperor Brennan is a trusting. I feel like it's just. I feel like I'm 3 seconds away from becoming a Borg, but I'm okay with it. So, well, Brennan is anyway. He reaches out a little hand and lets the fungi do whatever it needs to do, or maybe he just needs to take it. It
just kind of just flops into your hand like a so it's like a little tuft, a little kind of sprouting of what are those mushrooms called that are really hard to digest? The long, stringy ones with the little caps at the top.
I know which ones you're talking
about. You know the ones
I'm
talking about? It kind of looks like that, but they've got this blue, luminous glow about them. And they've got little pot marks on them. They're freshly grown, and you can pocket them and put them into Inuki mushrooms. And you literally just, they're not trying to attach themselves to you in any way, shape, or form, but it's like a promise you made now. It's like that when your body expires, these will do their thing. And you will sprout. So, and you, as you kind of grasp them, actually, as a little bit of flavor, as you grasp them, and you have them in your hand, they don't attach to you in any way, but you see imagery in your mind of the network, and it's like a flyby. It's like a drone zooming through the underdark, through the tunnels, all being led by the light of the. I've been led by the light of the blue through these tunnels, zipping in and out, heading eastwards, and you feel yourself dropping down and forward, and you zoom out over a large expanse, Tunnels twisting here and there. You see old ruins and kind of torches that are barely lit, sections of cave that are covered in large kind of crystalline formations, fallen rock formations, an old tomb that seems to be caved in on itself, and out into a kind of an open expanse you see ruins. A broken bridgeway that drops, and then a long kind of open doorway on a tall tower that stretches towards the roof of a cave formation. And milling around the base of this, off in the distance, you see what look like drow forms. And you're kind of seeing them in different variations of color, like there's a hue coming off them, like it's a kind of chromatic aberration or something like that. And you see their color shifting, and you see these drow guards milling about. And there is, even in this thing, I want you to give me a perception check, please.
All right. That's not bad. 19.
19. Yeah, like as you kind of your mind's eye is pulled through this system by the kind of the mushroom colonies. You see out into the space. You see different variations of drow in different regalia. You see higher guards similar to the ones that you saw bodies of in the caves, like the priestess honor guard.
Mm-hmm.
And then stepping out from a large arched doorway, like Gothic arched doorway style, with massive kind of what look like spider kind of tendrils that wrap around the door frame, and kind of bulbous spider forms that adorn the archway. You see stepping out from that, it's kind of surrounded and what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of flanked on either side by an honor guard. You see a tall, thin form mantled of a gaunt face of what looks like a priestess of Loth. She kind of has a massive cane with a bulbous spider arse on the top of it, with the kind of the spider legs that attach out from the top of the cane, and a massive red gem in the center of it. As she kind of steps forward as it clinks onto the stonework. And you kind of feel yourself shimmering as she kind of steps forward and down through the archway into a courtyard. And in the center of the courtyard is an altar. And on this massive altar, there seems to be kind of a huge effigy of what looks like a kind of a spider form, that the claws come up and form what looks like kind of like a small cradle. So the spider form is on its back, and its tendrils and legs are out, kind of forming a cage, and empty swaddling clothes sit in it. And the priestess steps up to the thing, and she swishes her hand, and torches illuminate out. And then she points off in the distance, and she shouts at the guards, and the guards disperse off into the Underdark, as you see them all going off in different directions, seemingly searching for something. And then you are pulled back through the network. You feel yourself coming backwards as you find yourself sucked back into your own form. And the blue, just you hear the voice in your head diminishing and echoing, like, "We have shown you the way to the void." And then the voice is gone. Okay.
That told me nothing. Good to know. Thank you.
Excellent. So we then cut to Gray as you search for coffee, and you are kind of, I'm very aware of the time, and I'm kind of very aware that we need to take a break real quick, just to kind of break it up. But Gray, you're searching for coffee. You do find some hefty underdark brew, kind of strange. Yeah. It's basically you've just brewed the soil of this place, but it's strong. It's got a kick to it, and it wakes you up. And as you're taking your first couple of sips, kind of making a bit of small talk with the paladins and the drow, you feel a tap on your shoulder, and the gruff voice of Articus is like, "Morning," and that's where we're going to take our break, and go kind of feed and water ourselves. We'll be back very, very shortly with the giveaway. We have a fantastic giveaway thanks to Dublin City Comics, the Heroes Feast of D&D cookbook. We also have the winner of the giveaway for these 2 graphic novels. Thanks again to our sponsor, Dublin City Comics. We'll be right back after this very short break. And we're back. We're back. We're back. Hello, 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 hello. Because we were waffling and eating food during our break, I forgot to bring up the list of people, but I will do that now. So, our question for the last episode for these two fantastic prizes of the Mindbreaker, Dungeons & Dragons Mindbreaker graphic novel and also the Ravenloft graphic novel. The question was, who voices Minsk in Baldur's Gate? And the answer, of course, is Matthew Mercer.
Wayne's boyfriend.
Everyone's boyfriend. Everyone's boyfriend. So I'm trying to fucking bring up the thing here now. So I need somebody to roll me a D12, please.
Let's go. I got a 10.
A 10. Okay, here we go. 1 second. Let me bring up the episode now.
Wow.
Apologies for this. Turn this volume all the way down so we don't hear ourselves talking. Let me get my list. Okay. We have a Alison Fitzmartin, 2849. I think, if I'm not mistaken, actually, looking at the comment, Alison was actually at my table at D&D in a castle. So there you go.
Very good.
So congratulations, Alison. You are the winner. Welcome to the Sorcery Shenanigans family. You are the winner of the two Ravenloft and Mindbreaker graphic novels. We will get them. I'll reach out to you. I'll reach out to Alison, and we'll get these out to you in the post in the next couple of days. Now, the question. Whoop! I'm dropping shit everywhere. The question to see who won, or sorry, the question for this. I read a quote on this really easy question. I read a quote at the back of this book at the start of the episode. Who did I attribute the quote to?
Yeah.
That is the question. So there's a quote on the back of this book. There's a quote on the back of this book. It's by somebody, a very famous musician, and I read out their name. I read the quote and read out their name. Who did I attribute the quote to? That is the answer to the question. Put the answer below. And
Show me how to enter, Wayne.
Put the answer below and share the video on social media, tagging Irish Pubcast, and we will reveal the winner of this fantastic official cookbook of D&D with loads of very phallic and horny recipes apparently inside it. So there we go. Thank you so much again to Dempsey Comics for being our fantastic sponsors. We hope to be back in their space in the next episode to record in person, so we can get that resonance, and who knows what else will happen. So without further ado, let's get straight back to it. We left off as Gray was just downing their first sip of coffee in the morning, and Articus steps up behind him and says, "Good morning." Gray, you turn and you're met with the youthful face of Articus, them with their own kind of tankard, travel tankard of coffee, steaming hot and stinking of soil, as they kind of give you a little wave.
I'm a little apprehensive. I'm going to just make small talk though, and ask Articus how his night was.
Oh, I did a bit more foraging. Found some, what I believe to be was some form of bean that we could grind into this fantastic brew, and he kind of sips on the acrid beverage and winces slightly as he downs it. Just kind of got a bit of shut eye and kind of taking it easy. Had a bit of watch as well. Keeping busy, learning the ropes. I've only been doing this for a very short period of time. My kind of swearing into the kind of the sect and the group and the temple of Saloon, as it will. It only happened about a year ago, and this is my first real overall kind of outing as such. And you can see that, like, given whatever the brew is, he's slightly jittery, still very green, wet behind the ears. He's young, like the youngest, like younger than you remember him. And it's funny, putting the maths together in your head as you're sitting here. he's a human. And you know that where you come from is like hundreds of years in the future. And the maths don't add up that he was that old and still alive in your head.
Oh.
And you're kind of looking at him, and it's now starting to creep into your brain as you're kind of going, hang on a second. Like, we're talking a couple of hundred years in the future was when we first met.
Oh.
And you're kind of going, how? What?
Uh, so Articus, do you know anything about the connection between different planes in the world? Have you looked into that at all?
Oh, I mean, it was part of our studies, early doors, I guess. I do know that there are different spheres in the sky. Azira is very much open-minded about that teaching, like that we're not just some flat disk floating in the back of a turtle somewhere in the universe. We are definitely like a sphere that is floating as part of an entire universe and stuff. And we were definitely given that information. But overall, my knowledge of realms and planes of existence and dimensions and it's limited. I am only a first year study as is, and I've barely learned how to swing this thing. And he kind of swings up his light hammer ever so slightly, and he kind of brings it up close to his face, and he nearly catches himself. It's like, I am getting better now. Yeah. And he kind of hooks it
Yeah.
back onto his belt.
Did Azira talk much about time and moving through time?
I think that's year 3.
Oh, okay.
He kind of looks a bit baffled as he's kind of looking around at everyone else. And like you can see, like, I mean, it's like there's a few of the paladins that are like, kind of chuckling a bit as he's talking, and like, here's the new guy, and like the rest of them are a bit more seasoned than he is. He's very much the junior lieutenant on this whole thing.
Yeah. Okay. So when he lifted the light hammer, I bristled a little bit, but I'm hoping it wasn't detected. I start to wonder if his piety helped him with the aging process, but I'm sure I'll discover kind of what it was. I'm because Azira is older in this place. I'm going to relax a little bit about the rules because I'm sure things will become more apparent, and starting to dread things now wouldn't be great. But I am going to exercise a little bit of unwanted caution around Articus. I was looking forward to being big bad buds, but that dream freaked me out a little bit. So.
Right. He said, I was actually sent over to ask you if you would like to come and do some training. There's a group of us getting ready for our morning kind of battle preparations, and I noticed that you have a shield, very similar to mine. It's nearly we must have visited the same blacksmith, but yours looks a bit more weather worn and has these arcane symbols, I see. But we're going to do some training, battle movements, and I was asked to ask if you wanted to join us. Maybe
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he kind of leads you off, and there's a kind of a small section that's been cleared out, and there's a couple of paladins there, and they're all practicing either with short swords, long swords, light hammers, kind of claw hammers, and their shields, and kind of practicing on sparring on each other back and forth. And over the next 20 or 30 minutes, like, you do a bit of back and forth with Articus and a couple of others as they show you some movements with like, say, your weapon and your shield, and you kind of, as a bard, it's you know how to fight to a degree. You're not unbelievably brilliant, but you have had your fair share of like fights where you've done a bit of damage. But you do learn a bit more shield stuff, and you learn to kind of block a bit better, and you, as the morning goes on and as it progresses, I don't know whether Grey's would drop a bit with the apprehension, but there seems to be a bit more camaraderie with the group.
Yeah.
Forming as the morning goes on.
Grey's very much a vibes economy.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. So if the vibes are good, I would probably relax a little bit.
Roll me just a wisdom check or an intelligence check. One or the other. You choose whatever you want.
Okay.
Just to kind of gauge something here.
Okay.
What do we got?
You saw that, did you?
4.
Yeah.
Okay. So your guard is
I
dropping.
have
ever so
other
much.
traits.
You do, but your overall your apprehension seems to roll to the back of your head intentionally because you've only got a 4 on that roll, and it rolls right to the back of your head, and you get into the swing of it, and over the course of about a half an hour to an hour, you're getting more proficient with your shield. Do you have a shield proficiency as a bard?
There was something funny about that shield because of its significance.
Yeah.
Let's have a look here. Sorry.
I don't know whether you have the full proficiency, but if you didn't have the proficiency beforehand, you do have it now.
Ooh.
As you work with Articus and you start to build a rapport back and forth, and he gets more comfortable in his space, and even he starts to pick up some moves, learning from the other paladins, and there is a camaraderie starts to build between the small group, you and them, as you form a bond with these group of 4 to 5 paladins individually, and as a collective little unit. And you're bonding with them over the ability to build on your skills, because they're a kind of lower lieutenants, they're not higher ups, they're very much foot soldiers, and you're now getting into the form with them. And that happens over the space of a couple of hours. And that's where we're going to leave Grey for now.
Yeah.
Zill, you left the tent and you started to make your way through the groupings. You saw Brennan go off and start talking to mushrooms. You saw Grey go off and get their cup of coffee or whatever the hell it was and have a chat with a couple of different groups in there.
Yeah.
And you're now looking for Azira, and it takes you a couple of minutes as you're pushing through the groups. And in total, this campment is about, say, in total, stretching from end to end, it's probably catering for about 80 to 90 individuals, grouped in small clusters of families or groupings that know each other, that are familiar with each other, as well as the paladins and the refugees all mixed in together. A total of about 90 individuals. So it takes you a couple of minutes, and you do eventually spot Azira at the far end, talking to another paladin, and they seem to be going over a list of supplies and weaponry as you approach. Azira sees you coming and looks up and gives you a little bit of a wave. I said, "Good morning. How are we feeling?"
I think we all got some much needed rest last night. I'm looking for my parents.
Yes. Well, indeed. And you see Azira kind of scans the area. I believe your father is... Yes. You see the second, as he points over, and there's a kind of a makeshift couple of tents that are in a row at the one end of this kind of large kind of area. And she points over and says, "There's your father, I believe, with you." And you see, and you look over through the crowd as people are moving back and forth now, seemingly packing. People are getting ready to pack up.
Yeah.
You see your father with Lil Zara in swaddling, kind of rocking back and forth as he moves back and forth to front of a small makeshift tent that they are seemingly living in for now. And you see him kind of like jostling the baby and kind of doesn't look it up, looking solely at the child.
Yeah.
Keeping her close.
No sign of Lithrana.
You can't see Lithrana at the moment.
Okay. Right. So I say to Azira, so on the advice, instruction, random notions of my Doar friend, I should go and have a chat with them. So I'm gonna do that.
Okay. Yeah, sure. If that is what you wish to do, it's your choice. It's your decision.
Before I go, what do you know of them? What's your experience with them?
So my experience with your parents is one of admiration, for one, because a lot of these people would not be here without them.
Really?
Your
Dad
aunt,
too?
your father is a formidable fighter.
He is not.
Well, maybe not when it comes to anything of an arachnid nature. He seems to have an aversion of some sort, which I've not gotten to the bottom of yet. But he can hold his own. Not as well as your mother, but he can fight. Um, he has dispatched a couple of foes as we've traveled. But your aunt, Viconia, and your mother are the key reason why we were able to save these people. And obviously your aunt gave her life, but your mother is one of the strongest warriors I've ever witnessed. She is... It is strange. I don't use the word beautiful when it comes to the art of battle, but to see her wield her blade is a sight of beauty. She dances with it, maneuvering, positioning. We are paladins. I myself, I'm a blunt force. I hit hard and cast harder, but your mother is finesse. A single strike, moving here and there. I've never seen the likes. Your aunt was something similar, if a bit more forceful. But I put that down to her pain.
I don't know that I've ever seen either of my parents fight before. And it's been a long time since I heard the name Verconia. All I ever knew was that she was a sister to my mother and that she died a long time ago.
I suggest you go talk to them, if you wish. All I know is that they reached out. Your aunt came to the surface, something a drow for nature would never do, but they had a plan, and they saved many lives. We have ferried many refugee caravans like this over the last 2 years, totaling in about a number of maybe 2,000 from different sections of the Underdark. All from these types of ritualistic sites. But there is something different about this one. It seems more intent, more damning in a way. The priestess was vicious, and our many followers undertook her instructions with a satisfaction and cruelty which I've not seen, but I've seen cruelty. The problem is, our way out requires us to take out one of their strategic points. And that is something I wish to speak with you and your compatriots. We may need your help to do so. But that can wait. First, I think you should need to go speak to your parents.
Okay. Thanks, Azira.
Hey, don't thank me yet. We're not out. She kind of nods and turns back to what the quote with the other paladin, and they're looking over their lists of weaponry and supplies.
Okay, so Zara is going to make her way across the camp to the tent where her father is.
Okay. You move through the group, the crowds, and push your way through, and as you approach, he kind of absent-mindedly looks up briefly and look back at the child, then looks back up again as he sees you approach, and kind of like his face brightens slightly as he kind of gives you a wave. He's like, "Good morning. It is pleasing to see you again. You're staying in the camp.
Yeah, I am. I mean, Calamar. I was hoping to to talk to you and your wife.
Oh, yes, my Thrana, she is currently doing her morning rituals, not too far from here, just down, and he points kind of off to the side of the camp, and there's like a little tunnel that ekes down, just down there in a small clearing. I'm dealing with Zilzara here. She's just been fed, actually. Strange. She has a penchant for these fried mushrooms that we have here, and as soon as she has some of them, straight to sleep. But yeah, I think. I mean, I'm free to speak if you wish, or if you wish to speak to my wife. And you see, there is a general kind of cautiousness about him as a male drow, and you know, in the male society, the male drows are looked down upon slightly. They're seen as second-class citizens to a degree.
Yeah.
There are some that are holding higher kind of stature, but not a lot. Um, and you know your father's history as like the city he was from. Um, it was literally known as the Spider City. It was Chednasad, and he literally worked in a stables. His history was that he worked as a kind of a farmhand or a kind of a servant to a higher house, and he had no stature in himself. Um, you've heard the story of how they met. You've heard the story of how your father got his arachnophobia through the situation of where in Chetnasad they have spider mounts that they move through the tunnels with. And after a pretty hefty battle, these higher up female drow warriors returned after 2 days in the caves with no food or water, with these ravenous, battle-hardened, battle-worn spider mounts. And he was left to tend to 4 of them by himself. And they set on him and attacked him, poisoned him heavily. And only that your mother, who was a high guard, found him, took pity on him and nursed him back to health. Because she is rare in drow society. She does not believe that, and she had these doubts throughout her time when she did worship Loth in her youth, because, you know, we all do stupid things in our youth. Um, she found her way away from that through the caring of your father and realizing that there was something had to be done here. And it led to them falling in love and becoming entangled in each other and leaving the city. Um, and being caught, being exiled because of your father's weakness, because in Drow society, having a fear of spiders is very much the lowest of the low. And as a male Drow, he would be quite low. But your
Total
mother,
weirdo
yeah,
outcast.
completely. But your mother decided to stick with him, and they traveled and moved through the Underdark and tried to find refuge where they could. She lost her stature, but that is at that point, with her sister in tow, they found their way to the goddess Elistri. Elistri, you can give all of you can give me a history check if you want. You can do this, you know, outside of character, it doesn't really matter, but just to give you an idea, just in case whether the characters would know this, even if Zilzara would know this, who Elistri is.
17.
A 17. So Elistri is a kind of a drow goddess that is different to a lot of drow deities. She is a chaotic good goddess. She is known as kind of like the dark dancer or the dancing goddess. Her symbol is a picture of her kind of butt naked, but wrapped in her own white silvery hair against a flaming moon with a long blade. And she is known as just being just formidable force. And she has a massive hall deep within her realm that is her throne room without a throne, that she just spends her days dancing and perfecting her prowess. Um, and the drow that worship her subvert the general drow society of worshipping Loth. She is an enemy of Loth, and she is seen as kind of like the antithesis, the complete opposite of what she is. Um, she believes in nature. She believes in nurturing. She believes in different societies melding together. There, she has emissaries that travel through the realms, through the spheres, and you weren't sure. And again, Jill, you can make this decision for Zill, whether Zill knew this of her mother, or whether she didn't know that that was her kind of choosing her path in life. But it's through that kind of finding of that deity, finding of that path in life, that made her move into this kind of train of thought or belief that they needed to get out. They needed to get away from Drow society. They needed to get out of here, but they were trapped, and they got stuck in this section of the Underdark where they were used as sacrifice. They were used to breed children to feed this ritual that was ever present and ever ongoing.
Yeah, so I suppose she knew her mum had an affinity with this Elistry deity, but didn't know any of the history with regard to the sacrifice and the breeding of the kids to take their souls to feed. Fucking lol. Didn't know any of that. Just knew her mom was a bit of a tree hugging hippie. And her dad was a weirdo who was scared of spiders, and I suppose her being the kind of grouchy emo type that she is, she was like, God, my parents are just embarrassing. But she didn't understand the deeper meaning until now. Like, she had no idea, and obviously no idea that her own life had hung in the balance in the way that it had, and knew her aunt died a long time ago, but didn't know the circumstances. Just, it was her mum's sister who she talked about a little bit, and told her, oh, she died a long, long time ago when you were just a baby. That's all she was ever told.
Okay. Calabar stands before you like he's holding the child, and he's like, I mean, you are sent from somewhere, and you came and you helped us and saved our child and brought her back. And as her father, I thank you, and I only wish I could have done more myself. As I don't know if you have children, but as a parent, particularly as a father, when you have a daughter, you would burn the heavens for them if it meant they survived. And for her to be taken from us, and we thought she was lost, I was ready to start that fire to find her. And here she is. All thanks to you and your friends.
It was very fortunate that we arrived when we did, and managed to save the little one. I can tell you, as a dad, you are doing and will do a great job, as much as your daughter will think you weren't. I have to explain where we've come from. Myself and my companions, the little bird-looking dude and the cat-looking one.
You do have strange travel companions, I will say.
Yeah, and some of the stranger ones didn't come with us this time. We've been on a quest for quite a long time, and it's led us to some strange parts of the realm and strange parts of the void. And you're gonna think I sound crazy, but please bear with me. And I really wanted to say this to you, and I wanted to say this to you and Lathrana, so I wouldn't have to repeat myself. But since she's not here, I guess I'll fill you in, and you can decide whether you think I'm crazy or not. I know I sound crazy, but I swear to you what I'm about to tell you is the truth. Part of our quest and part of our travels brought us to a temple of Saloon, and to cut a long story short, we were sucked through a portal and thrown into the past. And we had no idea where we were. We came across the little one and her deceased aunt by what I thought pure fluke, until I saw a crystal around her neck. And at this point, Z takes her crystal out of her tunic and says, I'm your daughter, Calamar. I'm Zelzara from the future.
He looks at the crystal and he kind of looks, and there's a kind of that Mark Wahlberg trying to figure out the trees are actually killing everyone face. And he kind of looks at the crystal and looks down at the child and reaches under the swaddling and pulls out the crystal from there and holds them up. And he's like, there is only one of these in existence. These are carved from a very special stone found in a very special place by your mother. And this was hers. So
and she gave it to me.
Yes, she did, to protect you. And he kind of puts the crystal back in, and his hand just gently, unsteadily reaches out to your face and just cups your cheek and looks you in the eye, and he just smiles. And he's like, you've gotten big. I need to process what this is, but I am glad to see you here. I am very thankful that you've found yourself. And I really think you should go talk to your mother. And
okay,
she will listen in her way, but and he kind of, the shock is like slowly but surely sinking into him as he processes this. You came here to save us. You were sent to save us. That must be it. Go, speak to your mother. Tell her what you've told me. And he just, even with the baby in his arms, he kind of turns and he just pulls you in to a massive hug as best he can with one arm and holds you tight, holds you close. And you can just, you feel the strength in him. And you kind of, it's weird that like it's young you and now you and him, and he just pulls away and you can see that there's just tears rolling down his face, but they're happy tears, and he's just smiling and his eyes are wide, and he just kind of jostles the baby as she kind of stirs a bit, and he's like, go talk to your mother. And he kind of slowly but surely, still looking at you, steps back into the tent and just kind of, go. I'll see you soon. I just need to sit down for a second. And he kind of plumps himself down on the little kind of rock that's just inside the tent as he kind of registers everything and starts playing everything through in his head.
Okay. So I guess I'm gonna go talk to my mom.
You kind of head down the small tunnel formation that you were told to go to where she is.
Yeah.
And you come into a small clearing, like a circular section that's like a dead end. But it's still like a high cave roof, and there's like crystalline formations and those blue mushrooms that have kind of wrapped themselves around the kind of exterior of this space. And it's an open space, bright, very well illuminated by the kind of bioluminescence. And as you step in, you hear a kind of a swishing, like a singing sound. I guess like, and then a shuffling of feet. And as you kind of round the corner into this space, you see there's your mother, and she's just doing this beautifully intricate movements of just up on one foot, spinning a blade, and it looks like a dance. It's like a form of like martial arts mixed in with like not so much capoeira, but it's effortless. And as she moves, she makes little to no noise. It's just the singing of the blade as you see her in space, in the one space, spinning on her foot, thrusting forward, bringing the blade back up, swinging it back behind her head, thrusting it down. And it's just a beautiful motion as the blue light that flicks off the blade traces through the air, leaving a trail of light behind it. And she doesn't register you at first that she's there for another 2 or 3 minutes before she stops and faces you, blade out, and sees you standing there and drops the blade down. Good morning.
Sorry, I didn't mean to disturb you or interrupt what you were doing.
You're not interrupting. This is merely just my morning warm-up exercises. I just have to practice. It clears the mind. She kind of...
It looks beautiful.
And she kind of looks, she points at the blade. Where do you have the blade sheatheded that she gave you?
Just at my side.
Okay. Would you like me to show you a few moves?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. Well, have you used a blade like this before? You seem to be able to take care of yourself. You have, and she gestures towards the knives and other accoutrements you have around you.
My blades are mostly for show. I use them when I've no magic left.
Okay. Magics, indeed. Now, have you tucked the crystal back in?
Yes.
Okay. Well, grasp the blade, and if you are arcane in nature, I need you to focus. Focus your abilities and feel it move through your arm. And it's like an extension of yourself. And she starts getting into a pose, and as she stands, she says, mimic me, do what I do. And she kind of shows you a stance. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do a couple of rolls of performance and dexterity. So she kind of starts off doing some very slow movements, arcing around, swishing the blade. And as she does it, the blade comes to life, and you see that light tip start to trace, and she dances on the spot. Please give me a dexterity or performance, your choice, whatever you wish. Or athletics, whatever one you find is more. I'll give you a couple of options here, whatever you think you want to do.
So, sorry, I was gonna.
Sorry, acrobatics or athletics is it? Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, you said it was acrobatics or performance?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna try performance.
Okay.
D&D is frozen. It's weird. The app sometimes when I'm trying to go for a skills roll, it's like it freezes so many rows down, so it's stuck. The last one I can see here is perception, and it won't. There we go. Okay. Performance. There we go. That is a nat 20 plus 2.
Straight out the gate. Nice. As she moves through her motions, you are mimicking her perfectly, and you start to it's like you pick it up straight away, effortlessly. It's like it's not so much that you're copying her. It's like muscle memory.
Genetic memory.
Something. Yeah, it's like you've forgotten. This is something you've forgotten, and it's just suddenly it's woken up in you, and it's like you're in sync. And as her white arcane light traces through, what color is Zilzara's arcane energy here? What color do you want it to be? What would her arcane flare be?
I think she'd see herself because she's attuned to her crystal and because it has such a connection to her past. She'd see her arcane energy as kind of a bluey purple.
Okay. So you watch as your mother's white light kind of shines through her blade, and you are in sync perfectly. And as her white light surges up the blade, all of a sudden a pinky purple hue ignites into the blade, and it traces the light, and you're both moving in unison, just straight through this movement as you're arcing light around each other. It's like you're drawing light in the air together, and you're not even trying to copy her at this stage. You're straight through. She's continuing to go, and you can see her glance from side to side every now and again, and she sees you going for it straight up. With that roll, I'm not even going to get to the roll anymore. Not 20 out of the gate. It just you complete the movement, and it is you just hear the two blades singing in unison together. And it's this beautiful kind of like wind chime thing where it's just whistling through the air and it's echoing through the cave. And even the kind of the large blue capped funguses around, they start to kind of resonate slightly as the cave starts to sing in unison with you. And the light fills the air. And that usual bluey hue is now a bright white, purplish pink as it all mixes together. And you both finish in the same flourish, thrust out in the same direction. And flourish up the blade, and your mother sheathes it into the scabbard on her back, and she kind of like gives you a look. It's like, have you done this before?
Ever.
You're natural. Must be in your genes or something.
You say that. I just had a chat with Calamar, and he told me to come find you.
Yes.
I wanted to share a bit about where we came from, and how it was that we came across your daughter, and she slowly goes into the same detail that she did with Calamar, and reveals, I want of repeating myself again, but she reveals to Lithrana that she is in fact grown up Zill, and that they are from, what was it, 150 years in the future. And obviously they'll, I suppose, just for the benefit of the DM and everybody else, Zill's not going to say anything about her mother's death or anything yet, because doesn't want to go there. She's just, you are my parents kind of thing.
The same kind of transposed look of shock, and then slow realization and recognition of the resemblance. It's like, I have to admit, I kind of, part of me knew. I could just tell. You look like Vaconia. It's like I'm staring at my sister, but obviously not. And she is now pacing slightly and shuffling back and forth. You're here. You're alive, which means we make it out of here alive.
Yeah.
It's like it's a good omen.
I hope so.
Child, you're here. Your friends, they traveled with you. They came from the future.
Your future, my present, yes.
Oh. I think we need to go check on your father. He will take this news not as well as I am, I have to say. He's a bit more on the emotional side. We female members of the family have a stronger constitution when it comes to keeping our emotions in check. Generally burying them deep down and ignoring them completely. But I think we need to go check on him, because he's more than likely. Did he cry? He cried, didn't he? He cried.
I know where I get that from, and yes, like a baby.
He is a
Niagara Falls.
I don't think I've visited that place. Must be some place we go to in the future. Yes. I'm still processing this, but it makes a lot of sense to me. As in, tell me, how much do you know of the weave and the general fluctuations of magic in the world?
I didn't know a whole lot until recently. My feathered friend is our expert on that topic.
Really? Well, I think we better go have a conversation with Adoa. And she kind of puts her arm around you and starts leading you out of the cave. And that's where we're going to end this month's episode of Sorcery Shenanigans, folks. I've been your DM. These have been your fantastic players. Congrats. Well done, everyone. Great session. Don't forget to enter into the competition giveaway. Thank you to our sponsors, Dublin City Comics. Do check us out on YouTube, Spotify, anywhere you'll find us on social medias across all the socials. Ben, I've forgotten to ask this for the very last 2 episodes, and I should be kicking myself every time I do it. Where will people find you outside of Sorcery Shenanigans online?
Oh, here and there. They, if they want to go into the past, if they want to be in their present but see me in the past, the entire campaign 1 of Homebrew Quest is on YouTube. That's a show we did live every second Tuesday. A little bit of tipsy tabletop. The basic premise is we drank while we played, chaos ensued, and we would use the beers and drinks and alcohols to inspire the world around us. So that led to things like beer magic, where if you use the name of your beer, you could use it as a spell. All that kind of stuff. It's good fun. It's also my very first time DMing, so it comes with a lot of lessons.
Aww.
So if you're a DM, you'll see what not to do. But more presently, if you prefer staying in the present and being more up to date with things I do, you can also catch me on a lot of D8 Dungeons stuff. So most notably, Romancing the Dungeon, where I play a Galeshire Night Scout called Agilius Steel. And that's a podcast, so you won't see this, but you'll hear this.
Nice.
We love the D8 dungeon, folks, don't we, folks?
We do. Does that, well,
Yes.
speaking of D8 Dungeon, and you've been remiss to not mention Ben and Declan.
Oh,
well.
yes. Yeah, I do that too.
Yeah. What is Ben and Declan? Tell us what that is.
Yes, so every second Thursday on Twitch over at twitch.tv/D8 Dungeon. And then whenever I get around to it on the Homebrew channel, I co-host a show with Declan, who's the DM in D8 Dungeon, called Ben and Declan on a Roll. And essentially we take a topic from the TTRPG world or from gaming in general, and we spend what we like to think is about an hour, but ask any DM in the world to timekeep. It's an impossible job. So usually about an hour and a half, 2 hours, chatting about topics. We've talked about mythology and folklore in the real world, mythology and folklore in D&D worlds. We've talked about being a good player at the table. We've talked about what not to do if you haven't done any prep as a DM, how you can kind of wing it for the session and get away with it. So we've loads of little topics. About 6 episodes under the belt, but we've plenty more on the way.
Yeah, good stuff. Excellent. Well, look, folks, this has been Sorcery Shenanigans. Thank you to my players. We will see you again on the next episode. Episode 19 will be the next episode. This has been episode 18. Until the next time, folks, stay safe, look after yourselves. Have a good one.
Bye-bye. We are